Thank you so much for coming along today. Be interesting to see how many people join us. We actually had 96 registers, so it'll be see how things go. So, quick slide on me, what you can take out of it. 65-year-old, been a CEO four times. Sorry, a CEO four times. Been a mentor and coach for CEOs now for just coming up to 10 years. So probably made pretty much every mistake that one can make, and I hopefully I've learned from it, and I can share some of that with you today. I just want to see how this resonates with you. My clients, I've coached and mentored hundreds of CEOs now. This is what this is how they describe the pain points they experience as a CEO founder. I'd be interested to see if any of these, which of these resonates with you, and maybe you can throw your thoughts into the chat. But things like, I feel stuck at $3 million. I'm spinning my wheels. That $3 million revenue number is a really hard one to break through, and where I specialize is taking my clients from 3 to 10 plus. Everything still depends on me. It's that founder dilemma that sales, delivery, strategy. You can't take a real holiday without the wheels falling off. I'm exhausted. The business is burning me out. I don't know how to scale without losing control. I'm the bottleneck. I don't know how to fix it. I don't have a clear path to $10+ million, or for that matter, an exit strategy. Tell me, so just throw in the chat. Do any of these things resonate with you? So the key thing, sorry,
Yeah, so some do, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Doug, what's your business?
I work in technology and financial institutions, enterprise scale. Yeah, but I have worked in smaller management consultancy firms, so I can resonate with the $3 million, $10 million revenues. Everything depended on me as well. At the same time, I'm also thinking about CEOs of larger companies and CIO maybe. And so I'm here for all of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've just come off a call with a client. He and the CEO and his COO, CFO, and it's one of the top five AWX integrators in Australia. And we've been working 2.5 years together, and my client's just taken a month holiday for the first time ever. A full month holiday, wheels didn't fall off. He was so relieved when he got back yesterday to have the company just storming away. The COO was a bit stressed, on the call, but how we can change things. Thanks, Simone. Yeah, bottleneck for sure. So listen, let's just roll through. So I suppose the key message here is you're not alone. That feeling of being stuck, the frustration of going at it alone, the quality of life sacrifices, and the exceedingly hard work required to scale a company. It's the same for all founders and all CEOs. There's some research that was done by a friend of mine, Scott Tanner, out of Canada. Scott was the founder and vice chairman of Western Financial Group. He scaled that to an exit of a big number, $450 million US. And in the research, what he found was that companies would hit these, what he called valleys of death. So the first one is about $1 million revenue and less than 10 FTEs. And 96% of companies didn't get past that $1 million revenue valley of death. The second one was at greater than a million. Only 4% got through there. 25 FTEs. Next one up was 10 million. What he didn't pick up in his research was the $3 million hurdle, because that's really where a lot of founders and CEOs fail. And this is all about people. Even though he was talking dollars, it's all about the number of people that are in the team. That 10 FTEs is a critical crunch point to get past the valley of death, and that's when you need to bring a 2IC on and other resources. Interestingly, the numbers are the same anywhere in the world. The dollar figure is the same, it changes. So this is Mexico. But look, 96, 4%, 0.4%, 0.06%. Same in Europe. This is Australia. Yeah, up to $2 million, 96% of firms. 2 million to 10 million, only 3% of firms. 10 to 25%, only 0.45%. So the research and these valleys of death apply, they literally apply in anywhere you go throughout the world. So very quickly, who we are and what we do. My businesses are called Scale Up Growth and Scale Up OS operating system. We help founder CEOs build $10 million plus businesses that are profitable, self-managing, and exit ready, even if they plan to sell. If they don't plan to sell, I should say. We do this by overcoming common challenges like founder bottlenecks, team underperformance, lack of execution discipline, the very things that stop you from achieving predictable growth, personal freedom, and legacy. How do we do it? I call it the $10 million founder free business, but there are three significant pillars: moving your business from owner reliant to self-sustaining, getting in place team culture and structure to support you, and putting systems and growth in place to support profit. This is one of my favorite quotes, Steve Jobs again. I'm always amazed at how overnight successes take a hell of a long time. And I think that's one of the things that you as CEOs and founders would realize. It's, this stuff, it takes time and it's hard. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk, sorry. We're going to talk about the scale-up operating system planning rhythms. Look at a three-year vivid vision. Look at how that translates into a three-year leader's intent, then translates to quarterly sprints and weekly, monthly check-ins. What I'd like you to do though first, if you don't mind, is just take a couple of minutes and jot some notes down. Jot some notes down and just reflect on your past year. Gratitude and pride. What are the top three best things, biggest wins in the past year? What are the biggest challenges you've grown through, and what did you learn? What incompletes? What didn't you complete? What unfinished business do you have? And what aspirations? What are your top three business aspirations for the next year? What are the top three personal aspirations for next year? Just take a couple of minutes and just jot down some rough notes. We haven't spoken for a while. Hitesh will be interested to hear what's happened. By the way, there's a copy of the workbook that goes with this presentation. If you look in the chat, you can download it. Thanks, Crystal, for doing that. What gratitude and pride? Top three best things, biggest wins for the year. The biggest challenges you've grown through. What did you learn? Incompletes and aspirations, both business and personal. what I'm doing is starting to take you through the journey of how do we, make the next 3 years the best years, and then how do we actually execute on that. And then next page in the workbook. Right. I'm not getting this right today, am I? What do you want your numbers to be different going forward? Number of clients, income, monthly, yearly income. How do you want your marketing to be different? What do you want your impact to be different? How do you want your impact to be different? How do you want your lifestyle to be different? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? Okay. Anything particularly stand out to you from those questions you perhaps share in the chat?
Jonathan, I'm just going to ask my question if that's okay, because I'm on my little walking thing, so typing's a little bit hard. I think what really stood out for me in the valleys of death that you spoke of is the jump from that first 1 million to 3 million and the people that comes with that. So it was almost like a double the head count. And what I'm kind of experiencing is the investment of the next level of people power to continue the growth is where it seems to be a bit of a friction point for what I can allocate and resource out or invest back into that next level of growth. So that was kind of something that was coming up for me.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And once again, I was just talking to my client, and they're now at 15 million revenue. We've grown from 3 to 15 over the last 3 years. But we were talking about it just then, and that the if we throw in an additional one there, Simone, the concept of profitability and how do you grow versus scale? Sorry, grow versus scale, and keep your profitability happening at the same time. And it's almost as though you're going through, it's stepping up. So with my client, what we've been talking about is, to scale, it's all about people. So how do we afford to bring on the right people to do the right things to get us to the next level of growth? And what we're doing is a planning thing today, but one of the key things I work with my clients on is putting together, matching the people strategy to the actual strategy of the business is critically important. What we've done with my client I was just talking to has been to put in place an investment fund, literally a line of credit and also a cash account, which they've grown over time, and they will invest in people. So let's say we now need a new enterprise BDM to actually take us to the next stage of growth. We'll get 4 to 5 months of the costs of that resource, either in a line of credit or in a cash account. And we can plan and say, well, we need this BDM in 6 months' time. Therefore, we're going to start hiring in 3 months' time. We're going to have 3 months onboarding, and this investment account will pay for that, which leads us. So it's a very structured, thought through approach to grow the right resources, to help you grow through those barriers. Of course, AI is making it a hell of a lot easier these days. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I think it's just thinking of it in that perspective and making sure that you're sort of allocating those financial resources for that instead of having that feeling like, is there enough money to expand into
Yeah.
that next thing and having that uncertainty around it. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
I think you're right. The key thing here is it is all about people. And to grow and to scale your business, you definitely need the right people on board. And at that and particularly that $3 million level, not only are we talking about hiring new, much more experienced people than we've had in the past, we may very well be talking about moving people because they're just not, they don't have the skills now to actually um, to perform at the level we require. And they're the hard things about being a leader. Anybody else with questions or comment? Okay, moving on. So I think this is the key point at this stage. I don't believe in annual planning. In fact, I think it sucks. The problem with annual plans, they're too short to be strategic. And you can't build something truly transformative in 12 months. But they're also too long to be predictable. The market moves, your team shifts, priorities evolve. So what most businesses do, they fall in this loop. Big goals in January, drift in quarter two, panic in quarter four, and then repeat. So in my model, what we do is we plan a 3-year vision, but we then focus on 90-day execution sprints. So it's a rhythm. It's a 3-year vision, 3-year leaders intent, 3 years winning moves. I'm going to show you what these things actually mean in a moment. Quarterly sprints, weekly and monthly check-ins, and it creates consistency, accountability, and growth. The client I was just talking to you about, we have a plan quarter by quarter to move their profitability from 6% where they are now, which is low because they've been investing, to 16% over the next 3 years. And we have a specific plan in place to help the client and the leadership team move from there. This isn't just a planning framework. It's really about a shift in thinking. It's creating a business that scales without the founder. It's building a rhythm that actually gets executed. And it's aligning everybody to the same vision every 90 days. It starts with a 3-year personal and company vision workshop. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the background behind this. Worksheet, I should say. A fellow by the name of Brian Scudamore started a company called 1-800 Got Junk in Canada, significant time ago. I think to this day, it's still the fastest growing franchise in the world. In fact, there's 3 franchises. There's also a paint a room franchise and another franchise. Brian, he did it. He started his business when he was in college, and it was about paying to get through college. But it took off, and he got to a stage where he had 12 people. By the way, the issues with growth always comes around. The initial first one is about 10 to 12 staff, and Brian had 10 to 12 staff, and it was a catastrophe. It was keeping him awake at night. So he went one day down to the water with a pad and pen, and wrote down what he wanted his business to look like and what his life wanted to look like. And it became a thing called a 3-year painted picture. Part of that, and essentially blew up the company, started again, and built the company in a way that worked for him. Along the way, he got to that $10 million mark, and life got really hard. And he hired a guy called Cameron Herold. Cameron's a good friend of mine. Cameron became the COO. And because Brian was a phenomenal and still is a phenomenal CEO, but didn't have the skills to grow this company. So Simone, this is one of those points about getting to the certain levels and being able to choose to hire the right resource to help you. And Cameron and Brian took the company from $10 million revenue to $100 million revenue over about, I think it was 6 or 7 years. They were best friends. Brian was best man Cameron was best man at Brian's wedding. But it got to about 10 million revenue, and they had a really great working relationship. They went out for lunch one day, and Brian burst into tears. And Cameron said, "You're going to sack me, aren't you?" And Brian said, "Yes," because Cameron didn't have the skill set to take the business from the 10 million from the 100 million to the $1 billion, and they're well and truly on the way for that. Brian then helped Cameron set up a business. It's called the COO Institute, I think it's called. He's written multiple books, one of which was about this company vision, a 3-year vivid vision. And it's a phenomenal tool. So what I've done, R&D, rip off and duplicate, I've taken a lot of Brian and Cameron's work, and then I've added my own stuff in here. And we ended up with this 3-year personal and company vision worksheet. So I'm not going to ask you to do this today, because normally what I'd ask you to do, and it normally takes at least a day. I normally send you down to the water with a bottle of wine, if that's your penchant, to literally sit there and map out what your business looks like and what your personal life looks like. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. This tool is available in the workbook. So the idea is to develop your 3-year vision for what you and your company will be 3 years out. And you personally as well. A clear vision, alignment in life and business, awareness of the roadblocks that have been stopping you, tools to overcome the roadblocks, a decision filter to keep you on course, strategic action steps to execute your vision, etc. The questions that I get you to ask is, in 3 years' time, what does your life look like? Wealth, property, home, your family, your partner, your health, your possessions, travel holidays, charity donations, community, what's your leadership style, and other things. Yeah, literally write down a paragraph or two on each and define what it is you want your life to look like. My family's just been through a major personal event this week that started 10 years ago. We bought a waterfront block of land and we built a holiday house on it. And it's been generating fabulous memories for the last 10 years. But as part of that plan, we had decided that at a certain age for our kids, we'd sell that house and we would move into a much more travel-focused life. And we settled the house on Wednesday, and we did really, really, really well financially. As I said, it was absolute waterfront. So we fulfilled our vision of a fabulous 10 years, but it's also now set us up for the next 15 from the exit event we had. But that was planned based on a rolling 3-year vivid vision. The planning started for that 12 years ago. Okay? It's what you can envisage in your mind as if you sit down and actually think this stuff through, and then revisit it on a regular basis. I revisit this with my CEO clients every year, even though it's a 3-year vivid vision, because things change. So the second part of it is describe in detail what your business looks and feels like from now after it has at least doubled in size. Our goal, minimum double in size. What's it feel like when you walk around the office? Physical or virtual? What do you see? What do you hear? What are your clients saying? Who are your clients? What kinds of comments are your employees making at the water cooler? I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail and give you an example of one of my clients. What's the buzz in your community? How is the company running day to day? Is it organized and running like a clock? One of my clients, Amazon Web Services implementer, 3 years ago, they set the aim of being one of the top 5 preferred implementers by Amazon Web Services in Australia. Took them 2.5 years. The thing about it was they had it in their mind and they knew what the goal was, and therefore they could plan to get there. What kind of stuff do you do every day? You, the CEO. Are you focused on strategy, team building, customer relationships, or are you still stuck in the weeds? What do the company financials reveal? How are you funded? How has that changed? How are your core values being realized amongst your employees? What business products and services are at the heart of your organization? I'm going to give you an example in a bit about a company that changed its products or added to them. What emerging businesses products are appearing that you're providing or attracting your investors' attention? Things that you can drive your midterm growth 3 to 5 years out. Are you actually thinking 3 to 5 years out? McKinsey's had a wonderful, or an ex-McKinsey consultant has a wonderful model, which I use called the 3 horizons model. And it's about allocating resources. What percentage of resources do you allocate for the next 2 years? What percentage of your resources do you allocate for the 3 to 5 years? And then what percentage of resources do you allocate 5 to 10 years? And making a a considered decision on that is a critical part of scaling a business. What are the media writing about your company? What are your dream clients saying about you? What leadership model do you have in place? As you grow, how is that leadership model going to evolve? Who's on your leadership team? What skills do you need? How are you supporting your team to grow and develop? So you can see all of these areas, all of these questions take a day, even more, to actually consider this stuff. It really clarifies your thinking and your planning. You want to be thinking about culture, staff, marketing, public relations, sales, IT, operations, financial production, communication, customer service, everything. And then write a summary. So that's a big picture thing for you to work on. I want you to schedule a day as soon as you can to go and complete this vivid vision. This is about a shift in thinking. It's about creating a business that can scale without you, the founder. It's about building a rhythm that actually gets executed. It's the key thing, and I think the key thing I haven't mentioned is it's a 3-year time frame. Now, why is that? We all hear about BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goal. Came from Jim Collins, 10 to 25 years out. The problem with a BHAG is it's really hard for the average team member to get their head around it. And it's too long. And the 3-year vision that we're working on is it's long enough to be meaningful and transformational, but short enough for your team to see themselves in it and stay motivated. It also takes into account the acceleration of AI, automation, and robotics. I think it's very, very difficult these days to think more than 3 years, to be honest. So the next thing is we're going to identify, and we're going to actually do a bit of work on this one together. So identify your 3-year winning moves. So what is a winning move? A winning moves are big, bold projects or initiatives that will drive growth and transformation. They're not just operational tasks. Each one will either double your revenue or double your profit in 3 years. Each one will either double your revenue or double your profit in 3 years. External winning moves, e.g. a new product as an example, is revenue focused. Internal winning moves e.g. a great place to work, will increase your profit. So I'm just going to give you an example. Before we do it, I'm going to give you a client example. So this is a client who 2.5 years ago, one of their winning moves they decided was going to be build a high performance culture, a culture where their team would be sticky, a culture where they could support the team to grow. So the winning move, as defined, was build a high performance culture. Along the way, when we went through the planning, there were a couple of things that we took into account. First and foremost was, how do we measure it? And we really didn't, well, I had an idea, but the leadership team really didn't know how to do that. So what we did was we went and found a who, who, not how. If you don't know how to do it yourself, accelerate the process by finding a who. And in this case, the who was a lady by the name of Maria Phillips. Maria was the head of people and culture at a previous client of mine. She'd retired but was bored, and we brought her into this client. And what she or we decided was that the way to measure this build a high performance culture was to measure against the 68 criteria to be a great place to work, and the certification criteria to be a great place to work. And so that's how we started. And from there, and there were 68 criteria there, from there, the team set about lots of small projects to build this winning move of a high performance culture. So 2.5 years later, what happened? 92% of employees said DNX is a great place to work. This is under the certification process, an independent certification process. That's compared to 60% in a typical company in Australia. 100% said that said people care about each other. 98% said that they feel safe, included, and respectful. And it's not marketing spin. This is certified anonymous employee data collected through the Great Place to Work certification process. Beyond the numbers, retention's up, performance is up, and the CEO is no longer stuck in the weeds. So that is the benefit of picking a winning move that will fundamentally change your business over 3 years. I'll show you another one a bit later on. So let's go back to what a winning move is. Once again, in your workbook, this tool is in your workbook. It's a one-page tool. I'm going to tell you that this tool, I've adapted it a bit, but it comes from a guy called Patrick Tan. Patrick is the founder and CEO of a company called Rhythm Systems. I was a certified Rhythm Systems coach before COVID, and I'm authorized to use this, but I just want to make sure that you know where I'm a bowerbird. I get the best from everywhere I can, and I bring it to my clients. So the first thing with a winning move, and we're looking to identify 3 to 5 of these, and grab a piece of paper and start jotting some of these down. The idea, the way you do this, is sit down with your team and brainstorm. Go for 20, 30, 40, 50. Doesn't matter how many you get. So we're looking for ideas for 3-year winning moves. It could be a new product. It could be a new market. It could be a new industry. It could be using AI. I would think AI, automation, robotics would have to be a winning move for any company at this stage, and working out how you do that, how you execute on that. Take into account that AI, it's an accelerator. It's a transformational thing. So literally take a couple of minutes and just list down potential winning moves over the next 3 years, external and internal, that will fundamentally shift the business. A 3-year result that would change everything for you. Also think about your current projects. Which of them would you stop doing? Which of your current projects doesn't align with your vision?
Jonathan, can I just clarify with the winning move ideas, are they
Yep.
just ideas or do you have to really understand? Because obviously, like you just said, AI is so important. But if I'm not quite sure how AI exactly fits into my dynamic, I'm in community services.
Yep.
Do I still just put down a move as
Yeah,
implementation
you
of
do, because
AI, or what do I do?
I'm going to show you how to rank them. But remember, this is a 3-year process we're talking about. So the idea here, if we go back to my client, the Great Place to Work, fabulous culture, it took them almost 6 months to map out what the winning move was, to quantify it, and to find the who to help, the who's to help them do it before they even started. There's a significant planning period that happens after you identify them. By the way, I've got tools to help you work out the financial impact and the like. But there's a significant planning piece that happens once you've identified your winning moves. Make sense? Okay, so the next page of the workbook teaches you how to rate your winning moves and ideas. Okay. Firstly, impact 3 to 5 years. So impact being revenue or profit. So 100% increase in revenue or profit, it's a rank of 10. If it's a 50% increase in revenue impact, it's a 5. And then also based on your ability to execute. A 10 moves all other projects along as well. You learn new skills. So if you think about my client who's a certified great culture, that was an absolute 10 on ability ability to execute. So if we go back to the page before, and our goal is to, next to winning move, remember with your team, we're looking to develop as many of these potential winning moves as we can. We rank them based on impact and ability to execute. And anything that has a high impact and ability to execute becomes a green. They're the ones that we then do more analysis on, Simone, to decide whether or not we pursue them. Anything that has low revenue growth or profit growth, they become red, and guess what? You just don't do them. And these could very well be projects you're currently working on. The yellow one's an interesting one. I always recommend you do some work on the yellow. High revenue, but hard to do. Because guess what? This is the stuff your competitors won't do. This is the stuff the competitors avoid, and these are the things that give you the competitive advantage. Does that make sense? So with your point, Simone, AI, automation, robotics, I can tell you there are a lot of CEOs out there ignoring it. This is what will give the competitive advantage to founders and CEOs who execute. I wrote a blog on this last week. Is this making sense?
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking up all the airtime. Another question.
That's okay.
Just with that process, if you're involving your team in on that,
Yep.
and you're trying to really empower them to come up with these ideas and suggestions, and then everything that they come up with is in red, and then they feel like they've offered a suggestion and none of it's going ahead, what would you kind of do in that scenario? How do you sort of
Well, I think
your team wanting to help, but then realizing that that's not a high priority?
yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it will depend on the team you have and depend on where you are. So if you've got, yeah, it may be you and a co-founder. It may be you and a small leadership team, depending on the size of the business. It may be you and a fully formed leadership team. Part of doing this, Simone, is also I'm trying to think of the reverse, but essentially one of the key issues I work with my clients is dysfunctional leadership teams that aren't aligned, that don't trust each other, etc. So part of this process is about building a functional leadership team that can drive and grow your business going forward. You may find that you have people on that leadership team that just they're the wrong people. Part of this process will identify that for you. You may decide to do it by yourself first. I wouldn't recommend it because, that means we all think we're the smartest person in the room, and I can guarantee you I've never been the smartest person in the room. It's my mistakes that I learn from. So, and what we find a lot of the time with another exercise I do every 6 months is a stop, start, keep exercise with the whole company. What should we stop doing? What should we keep doing? What should we start doing? Quite often, someone will come up and say, "Oh, we need a new coffee machine." Quite often, it'll be the junior storeman in the warehouse who comes up with a brilliant idea. So getting in this case, the leadership team, but getting the team involved in this thinking, it also trains them. It gets them out of the mud and out of the weeds. So if you get to a stage where, the scenario you put forward is correct, maybe you've got the wrong people. But you also need to train and coach them why, we're looking for high impact and high impact on revenue and profit. Does that help? Okay, thanks. And then the other part of this is the capability mapping. Do you have the right capabilities to deliver on these winning moves? What do you need to think about regarding training? What do you need to think about new skills, etc.? Guarantee you, I don't think anybody out there would call themselves an absolute expert in AI as an example. But if you look at big picture thing, CEO of CBA, Matt Cumming, he the amount of work they've done in AI, they've actually set up an AI Center of Excellence in Seattle in the US. The amount of work and transformation CBA is driving with AI through experimentation over the last 2 years is unbelievable. Worth having a look at my blog from last week. I've taken on an AI coach for me so I can help my clients. So, and remembering these resources, the who to help you get to the how and the what, they don't have to be full-time resources. They can be people like me. A coach to come and help. They can be like Maria. We brought the people and culture expert in to help. She's not a full-time resource. It could be a consultant for 3 months. But part of this winning moves is thinking about where are you going to get the capabilities to get there. So the process you've been through, you've got a 3-year vision. Let's make it real. And you've got the winning moves. So what I want to take you to do is take 3 or 4 minutes, and from the thinking you've been doing while I've been talking, I'm sorry, I've been doing most of the talking, I want you to write down a sentence. If we were meeting here 3 years from today, what has to have happened, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy and proud of your progress? If we were meeting here 3 years from today, what has to have happened, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy and proud of your progress? What does your business look like? What does your personal life look like? Hitesh, how do you feel about sharing?
Just a minute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, I'm in that startup phase in the healthcare AI linked medical device. So for me, 3 years from now, the what I'd be proud of if I can achieve that is impact on the number of patients. So I'm working on Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So my target is if I can positively impact the diagnosis of about 300 million patients. Linked to that, obviously, will be the exit. Uh, Coming with that will be you know, more time for charity and volunteer work. So I do a fair bit of that. At the moment, I feel as if I'm I'm doing more lip service as opposed to actually getting involved. So I pay $100 to World Vision. And I think I'm doing them a favor, kind of thing. I sponsor 2 kids and then freedom and lifestyle. So I try to define freedom not just in terms of dollars, but also in terms of health issues. I relate very well to nature. So, traveling to stunningly beautiful spots, whether it's mountains or beaches and things like that. On the relationship side, and then on the dollar side is not just to have a comfortable life, but more than enough to exponentially expand the charity. I won't call it charity, more the volunteer work that I would either like to get involved directly or indirectly. And the reason I say that is that I've had experiences in the past where people in the charity side may not be doing the right thing by the customers, and especially in some parts of Asia and Africa. So, hence I said getting involved directly, indirectly, to the extent I can do that.
I appreciate that. Hitesh, I don't know if I ever told you I've got 2 adopted Ethiopian children. So
That's great.
every bit that we do
Yeah.
makes a huge impact. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk about what we've done. So I've taken you through the concept of your 3-year personal and business vision. I've taken you through how do you identify the 3 to 5 key winning moves. Never more than 5, guys. Never more than 5. The 3 to 5 winning moves, internal and external, that can transform your business over the next 3 years. From there, I've asked you to write a short statement. What is your vision for the next 3 years, which is what we've just done. The next issue is, well, how do we, picking up Simone's point, how do we translate that into the minds of our team? And the way we do this is through a concept called a 3-year leader's intent. This goes back to my army days, and how do you translate a vision from a general down to a platoon commander or a tank troop leader? I'll give you an exact example of this from my military experience. So in the first Gulf War, General Schwarzkopf was given the task of clearing the Iranians out of Kuwait. But he was limited by his political superiors that he couldn't cross the border into Iraq. So his leader's intent was, we're going to destroy, kill as many Iraqi assets as we can in Kuwait, and we're going to force them out of Kuwait and give Kuwait back to the people. That was the leader's intent. Okay, objective goal, the purpose why so the objective, remove the Iraqi military out of Kuwait and inflict as much damage and destruction on them as we can. Purpose why? To free Kuwait for the people. End state, in my case, in 3 years, but the end state was, get the Iraqis out. Now, in a past life, I was in the Army Reserve, and I was a squadron commander of an armored reconnaissance regiment. And I was doing my regimental commander's course at Puckapunyal, the armored centre at Puckapunyal. And they had a permanent American colonel, armored colonel, their instructor. And this fellow, at the time of the First Gulf War, he was the executive officer of a tank regiment, tank battalion in the First Infantry Division, the US First Infantry Division, called the Big Red One. The plan, they were the breaching regiment. The plan was to breach the Iraqi defences and turn left and stop because they expected to have 60% casualties. As it turned out, the plan went so well that they got through the breach with 5% casualties. And so the next question was, what do we do now? Now, that could have gone up through radio networks and up and down, etc., except that General Schwarzkopf had given a leader's intent. So the commanding officer of this tank battalion turned left and went for the border. And I don't know if you remember, most of you are probably too young, but there was an extraordinary scene of the Iraqis trying to cross the border, and they were destroyed 800 vehicles. The battalion that caught them was in fact this battalion that I'm talking about, because the leader's intent, they knew exactly what they needed to do. So if we think about our 3-year vivid vision, with the winning moves, with a short statement, our next goal is to come up with a leader's intent. This is the North Star. This is the North Star for your people, so that if they ever have any questions, they know exactly where they're going. They know exactly where they're going in terms of revenue, how much will we be doing in sales is our target, our profit margin, what will we be bringing to the bottom line, our customers, clients, and team size, what will the business look like? As an example, by 31 March 2027, we will be generating $25 million revenue at 22% margin by serving 1,000 plus high-value clients. I come back, why 3 years? Because it's long enough to do something meaningful, launch a new product line or enter a new market, but short enough that your current team can see themselves getting there. So I'll say that again. Why 3 years? Because it's long enough to do something meaningful, launch a new product line or enter a new market, but short enough that your current team can see themselves getting there. Does that make sense? So let me give you an example. There's a real life example from one of my clients 3 years ago. They were number 3 in the market they were in. And the owner, founder, CEO, and I think we were at about 8 million revenue at this stage. The company was 25 years old. In a conference room actually down here in where I live in Barrel at a pub called the Briars, we took a room upstairs for 2 days, and I asked the owner to do his leader's intent. And so his objective, the goal of the task was to become the market leader, total solutions in the area in medical hardware they're in, with 3 product lines, one of which was a new product line. A market leader from number 3, total solution for the client with 3 product lines, one new. Why? The purpose? To provide the customer with a low risk, low involvement, easy solution to achieve their objectives on time and on budget. So this is the total solution piece. So they're in the operating theatre area. So the idea was we're going to provide a total experience that makes it easy for the customer. The end state of the 3 years leader's intent, Department profit solutions. So we've got 3 products. Each of those profit solutions contributing to successful delivery of the total solution. By June 26, 25 to 35% EBITDA. They're currently at 23 million revenue. They're currently at 21. So we've still got a year to go. And $5 million cash in the bank, while achieving returns for investors and distribution to all employees in appreciation of their contributions to the success of the organization. What that means is they have one of their winning moves was a profit share for every single member of staff. So in about 2.5 years, they will achieve their goals. And the reason is every single member of staff, every leader knows exactly where they're going. Does that make sense? Okay. So we've done all that work. How do we communicate it? In your pack, there is a tool, a 3-year planning tool. Essentially, it takes every single thing we've talked about today and puts it into a 1-pager. What's the leader's intent? What will the company be in 3 years' time? A statement with no numbers. What are our numbers? Current versus 3-year. Revenue, profit, cash, number of products we sold, whatever you see as the North Star things to support you. What are the 5 the capabilities needed to deliver to our 3-year intent? These are the winning moves. What's the capability and what are the key initiatives? And finally, what do you want to be known for in 3 years? So we've done a lot of strategic thinking. This is the start of the execution. This is how you communicate all of these concepts in 1 page to every member of your team. Okay. So one thing I want to highlight. So we talk about what does a CEO do? There's a great book called A CEO Only Does 3 Things. I think that the CEO does 4 things. The first thing is come up with a strategy and then talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it until you're blue in the face. Talk about it to your board, talk about it to the leadership team, talk about it to your whole staff, talk about it to your shareholders, to your investors, everybody, your clients. So set the strategy and then communicate until everybody is sick and tired of you saying it, but they know it. The second thing is right structure, right people in the right seats doing the right things. If you have the right people in the right structure doing the right things, you can do anything. Simone, this is going back to your earlier comment about it's about another tool that I use. I'm going to do another workshop in a month's time about the whole people side. But I have a tool. It's a future org chart where we actually map the hires that we need to do in future to the strategy, to the revenue that you need to be able to hire. So strategy and communicate, people and structure and culture. Having enough money to pay for it, the third piece. And then finally, operationalizing the execution. And this is the part of the start of the operation, operationalizing the execution. So I talked about a 3-year plan. And I talked about quarterly execution. So how do we get there? This comes to you in the form of an Excel spreadsheet or a G sheet. But essentially is, what's the vision? If you look at the top left, my vision for the business is I have 5 key goals, winning moves to get to my 3-year vision. We list them at the top. What are the 5 winning moves? Great culture and place to work, as measured under the Great Place to Work certification. And then below under the 12 quarters, we then map out what we're going to deliver every quarter. So if we think about it, Simone, one of them is we're going to become a great culture certified by a great place to work. Well, the first thing is we need to map out what that actually means. So the first quarter could very well be spending the whole time mapping out what the project looks like. How much is it going to cost? What resources do we need? The second quarter could be, well, let's go and find the resources, find the consultants, find out who it might be. And then a whole series of projects that are going to be delivered over the next 9 or 10 quarters. And we literally put them in here. It could be we're going to develop a new product, a new waste product, as my client did. Well, the first thing is, well, what's this thing? What's the need? We need to understand, is there a market and what's the product market fit? So that could be two quarters of work. We then need to identify, once we've decided that, we need to find, is there actually a demand for it? We need a leader to lead it. We need we need to go and find manufacturing partners to deliver it. All of these are mapped over 12 quarters. And suddenly in one page again, you've got, oh, holy crap, I can now see, and this will obviously change, but I can now see what this business is going to be doing and delivering over the next 12 quarters. Is this making sense? And then, so 12 quarters, the 12th quarter is this one. What are we doing this quarter? What are we actually delivering this quarter? So what we're talking here is a 90-day sprint. We break it down into what are the number one thing we're going to deliver and what are the priorities. Who's responsible? It's always about a who and what are the key initiatives. And then a rallying cry, a theme. Okay. One of my clients, they're the founders, it's worth having a look at it. His name is Helder Klemp. He is the CEO, founder and CEO of a company called DNX. I interviewed him on my CEO podcast about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I think. And his view is he wants to make his business boring. He wants the business not to be jumping up with surprises every month or every week. And in his business, the area of his business, yeah, and we've been working on that for a long period of time. We've now got the financial systems in place, so he understands and can map margins and can map like that's now boring. His unboring bit in the business is sales and predictable sales. So we've been working for the last 3 months on how do we make sales predictable. Big piece, because unless we can make sales predictable, what resources do we need for a delivery team? So his number one thing this quarter has been make sales predictable. We've made changes. We've made changes to the way the segmentation works. We've made of the customer base. We've made changes to commission structures based, to push the business development team towards higher margin solutions. We've made changes to the actual team itself. We've just completed hiring a second enterprise BDM because we need higher skilled people to get into the enterprise market, which is where they've chosen to operate. So the number one priority was about making sales boring. Last week is the best sales week they've ever had. So we're going, once again, I'm just going to go back again. Oops, sorry, wrong way. 3-year planning tool, numbers, targets, capability, who's the key initiatives, what we want to be known for. 12-quarter plan where we, in many ways, this is vomiting into a spreadsheet. The idea is, put in your best, not the best guess, a best educated guess for every quarter per project, and we refine it as we go forward. Then we get to this quarter, the one we're working on, and we're much more refined. We know what we want to do. We know what we want to achieve. We know who's responsible. We know the key initiatives. And then finally, how do we track it? How do we know if we're winning? This is called the CEO dashboard. And if you look at this one, if you want more on this this particular tool, I've done a couple of blogs. You can find them in YouTube in my channel. Fabulous tool. What are the key metrics? What are your evergreen metrics for your business? Revenue, profit margin, cash collected, revenue per employee, whatever it might be. What are your North Star metrics? What are the key things? They're the key things that drive your business. And then under every area of your business, what are the key KPIs for every area of your business? Product, marketing, sales, success support, technology, etc. And within this, and this is, I recommend you do this either on a whiteboard or you do it on a, or you do it on in a G Sheet Excel spreadsheet. So first column is the metric owner. Then we map out what we're looking to achieve week by week. Metric type, total or average, the monthly actual, the monthly target, and red, yellow, green, and with notes. And before every weekly leadership team meeting, whoever owns the metric should be updating this spreadsheet. Green is we're on track, all good. Yellow is we're behind, but we have a plan. Red is we're behind, but it's all turning to crap and we don't have a plan. So immediately, you as the CEO and the founder can see exactly where the business is at, but this links via the evergreen metrics and the North Star metrics back to your 3-year winning moves and 3-year vision. Does that make sense? This is all about rhythm. This is all about making sure that you've got your 3 to 5 top priorities identified, that you know who owns them, that you know what success looks like, and that you can track. If you don't get the execution right, what did Mike Tyson say? I think a plan is only as good as good until you get punched in the face. If you don't get the execution right, with weekly scorecard check-ins, monthly reviews to help you stay on track, and to help you pivot if necessary, you won't achieve your strategy. So this is, at the end of the day, this is, I think, the most important of everything I've shown you today. Okay. 14 minutes ago, that's my presentation. What do you reckon is your number one takeaway from today? Can you drop it into the chat? What's your number one takeaway? What will you implement first? What do you need help with?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you, if the co-founders, do you recommend that the co-founders do this separately and come back together to see if they align, or how will you suggest that to be executed?
Okay. Do I pronounce your name Charming? Yeah, Charming. If you've got co-founders, the first thing I would do is get them to go and do, get you both to go and do the 3-year vivid vision exercise at one day with the first tool. Go and do that separately. Okay. Yeah, often I often recommend where the founder with the founder that he gets his wife or they get their spouse to do it separately as well, because it's it's extraordinary how you think you know your co-founder or your spouse, and in fact you don't really know them very well at all. And it's been a phenomenal thing to do to align co-founders. So I would start by doing that separately. And from there, you make the decision. And that comes down to the leader's intent. From the two visions, come together, discuss it, then you align yourselves around the 3 years leader's intent. Make sense? If you want a hand with that, very happy to facilitate the conversation. It can be difficult. And I'll give you an example of one of my clients right now. The company's been going for about 8 years. I've been with them for 2.5 years, 2 co-founders. One of the co-founders is the CEO. The other one, he's an engineer. So he's very much like a brain box when it comes to the technology and hands-on, but not interested in leading. The co-founder, who's the engineer, wants to sell out and get out of the business. So we literally, and this was about a year ago, but the exit event, we were talking about a $14 million exit event. This is the typical of the clients I take on. We grow them exponentially over the first 4 years and then onwards. So we had to go through, what's the vision for, and there were in fact 5 owners, but the 2 founders they had about 30% each. So we had to go through this vision planning. What is it that we're looking for? What is it that the owners, the 5 of them, are actually looking for? Do they want the exit event? Do they want to stay? Do they want to keep running the business? And that was a significant piece of work to go through. As it turned out, my client employed KPMG to run an exit for them. I'm not trying to be political now. I'm just going to make a statement that Donald Trump came along, and everything changed exchange rate wise, because the 2 potential purchases, one was from the States, one was from India, and so the actual event didn't go through. But along the way, the founder that wanted to get out rediscovered his love for the business and now wants to stay and continue to grow it in a different role, head of innovation, using AI and automation to grow the business. But we had to go through this whole process. So I'd recommend you start by laying down your vision individually and then coming together. Doug, what's your key takeaway, do you think?
So is that to me?
Yeah.
You know what, I came in, I wasn't sure this would apply because I'm sort of been in enterprise companies for 5 years, but it's reignited my passion to want to get back and do my own thing again, work in a smaller boutique company where I can have more than just like a 9-month, 1-year plan, have a 3-year plan.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. So it's not really what you're on about, but it's ignited a passion that I had.
No, look, I'm thrilled to hear that. And interesting enough, this works at enterprise level as well. So I was coaching up until a year ago, I think they were Fortune 376 company, the APAC division, 900 staff over 7 countries, and we use exactly this process. And interesting, that's where I met that people and culture expert, because we, as one of the winning moves, that company decided to become a great place to work certified in all 6 countries, and we achieved that in 2.5 years. So the concept works there in an enterprise as well as it does in smaller entrepreneurial ventures. Ross, we haven't heard much from you. Are you still there? Nope. Simone, what's your thought?
For me, I think it was really interesting to hear you say how far down the line that the strategy gets implemented down into the employees. In my experience, it's generally only stayed at an executive or a senior management level. So it was interesting to see how you were explaining how much you communicate that to everyone, which then got me thinking about if the vision is to exit and sell, how do people interpret that, especially in those lower level positions? When they do, are they then going to go into a panic thinking that their job's not safe? And are they invested in the growth and getting the business to that point if they're feeling like, well, you're just going to up and leave, and then what happens? Which really highlights to me that there's more cultural issues than anything else. But yeah, it just kind of got the cogs turning about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point. There's a fabulous book called The Great Game of Business. I've forgotten who wrote it. No, I can't see it just there. But the background was it's an American factory company, and they were going broke, and so the leaders did a management buyout because and everybody's going to lose their jobs. The leaders did a management buyout, and along the way, they brought every employee into the fold on the strategy and said, look, we need to make this work or you're all out of a job. which means that the town they lived in would be broke because this company supported the entire town. And they came up with this concept of profit share, where every single member of the member of staff received a profit share based on number one, their individual performance, but number two, the company performance. And one of my clients has implemented this model directly. And the thing is, if the staff don't know what the strategy is, how can they do the right thing? You know,
Mm,
one of those
true.
things I talk about a lot is make it easy. I think that to me, that's one of the key strategic planks. And you saw it in the example of the leader's intent. If you can make it easy for your customers to do business with you, for your staff to do business with you, and your suppliers to do business with you, I think that is probably the key strategic advantage that you can have over your competitors.
Mm,
Number one, actually
yeah, interesting.
making it, but number two, communicating it.
Yeah. Can I just see that sort of forethought of why would the reception need to know what the
Yeah.
company's plan is, or how is that beneficial?
Well, it's
But
a different level, but let's use the receptionist. I remember, I'm showing my age now, but going back in the 80s, I was an investment banker, and the receptionist at the then Lloyd's Merchant Bank, her title was Director of First Impressions, and she
that's
was
cool.
on,
I like that.
yeah, and
That's very cool.
she was on a significant number and a significant salary, and she was hired specifically, you were going to know the name of everybody that walks in here. You are going to remember what their coffee or tea order is. And she was absolutely phenomenal. But the strategy was, you make people feel more welcome here than anywhere else. And guess to this day, here am I 40 years, close to 40 years later, talking about her. Her name
Mm,
was Victoria. So that's why the strategy is important at all levels. You don't necessarily give them all of the detail, but certainly that leader's intent is critical.
yeah. Thank you.
That's right. Hitesh, charming.
The vision, the 3-year vision. So I'll work on that, fine tuning that.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and also how to connect that to the actions. I think that's important.
Yeah, it is because I call it strategic thinking and execution planning. It's if you can't take that vision and translate it, it all falls apart. And going back to that, my slide about the 1-year plan, problem is people forget. Unless you've linking it quarter by quarter, people forget what you're trying to do. Okay. Any last questions? Okay, so my challenge to you, for those of you who have a team, book your quarterly sprint planning session right now. Even if it's just an hour or two with your leadership team, or just yourself, put it in your diary now. Book a day to go and do your vivid vision. It's the most powerful thing you can do. It is, I have people, it's been life changing to them. And finally, next steps. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, you can do it right now. We will send you a copy of that though. We'll send you a link to a recording of this. It'll go up on YouTube. When you look at that, have a look at my channel on YouTube. There's 28 interviews with CEOs as an example. There's some phenomenal learning in there. And if I can help, please, in the workbook, you'll find a link to book a 30-minute growth call with me. That's a complimentary part of this workshop. I'm very happy to spend half an hour, 45 minutes with you, working through where your pain points are now and providing a bit of help to help you overcome them. But really appreciate you attending, and thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Nice to see you all.
Okay, we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.
Keep an eye out for more of these. I've got whole series of them coming up.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.